Hi,
Yvette, how you doing?
how are you?
I am blessed. I am so happy that we're gonna have this opportunity to talk together. Literally, it's been a couple of years that we didn't have a chance to really hash it out and talk, and we have so many things that I just want to kind of touch upon. But before doing so, let me just present myself to your audience and vice versa over here and present you. So this is actually a show called Friday Flows that we do every single Friday at 12:30 EST. And so proud and blessed to have our first ever guest, Yvette. So my name is Christopher Dedeyan. I'm a professional speaker, peak performance business and life coach, and a learning disability advocate. And Yvette, for my audience that don't know Yvette, and you guys are gonna find out how much of an amazing person she is. She is an actress, she is a model, she is a philanthropist, she does a lot of things with learning disabilities as well, specifically dyslexia and ADHD, as well as a business person and a finalist in Miss World America pageant. So Yvette, we're going to talk about all of that, but before doing so, let me just congratulate you on becoming a mother. You recently gave birth to a beautiful boy, so congratulations on that. And the first question is, how is that? Like, how is your new life with a kid? How are you juggling that? Let's just jump into it with that.
He's been wonderful. He's actually in the living room, so you might hear Dad has him. Uh, Wonderful. He's such a gem. He slept through first couple days. He slept through the night. We're just so blessed to have him.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Especially like you said, like if the first couple of days he's already sleeping through the night, that's like a win, right? And so yeah.
He's a good guy, so let's hopefully he's got straight. So
And how many weeks it has it been? Like how many weeks old is your son right now?
3 weeks.
3 weeks?
Yeah, he's 3 weeks old.
Damn, okay, okay, wow. So it's like very, very, very fresh. And how how are you juggling with like all of this like new aspect with the business and all that stuff? How are you kind of dealing with that? Is it kind of going smooth or you just took a break on the business side of things right now?
Took a little break, but I always you can never I always tell people like it's never about like people say like self-made. It's always a team behind you. There's always
Yeah,
like really helping you and really getting you through things in business. So I have such a great team. So they've been slowly like they let me break and then they've been slowly helping me get the things that I need to do, but they've been doing it for me. So
I love that.
it's a blessing.
I love that so much, and you're spot on with that. Like just having an amazing support team around you, not only in your personal life but in business as well. Because, like you said, you could kind of delegate and just be at ease of like, hey, people are taking care of business and whatever is going on with that end. And at the same time, I'm just seeing a bunch of people log on from Justin to Paul and all that stuff. If anybody has questions, to Yvette, to me, please comment that and we'll answer it as well. So Yvette, let's just jump into it. Tell us a bit like what you do. What's your like normal days, like obviously before the kid and all that stuff. I know that you have a clothing brand as well that I want to talk about and talk about all the learning disability stuff. So just kind of let's just jump into that.
Yeah, so even when I was having a kid, being dyslexic was really challenging because I I worked so hard to control and to maneuver navigate through being dyslexic and ADHD. And as you know, it's such a hard, it's a full-time job, really. And when I was pregnant, I could really see my dyslexic come out. I didn't really realize I could help it, but I passed through it with certain things, tools in life. And then when being pregnant, it was like, wow, like probably need to work on that on my dyslexic side. So it was challenging, but throughout my day, it's a very calm. I try to keep things really calm and peaceful, just because we're such a we're very peaceful, and if you don't have your surroundings that are calm and collected, then your whole it just starts getting all jumbled up in your head and it's too much. So I always really love to try to keep things very calm and collected throughout the day.
So that is amazing. And you have over here Bananas 84 saying, Yvette, you are amazing and beautiful. I mean, yeah, you just spot on with that comment. But that is so interesting that you're saying like you felt like your dyslexia kind of came even more predominant when you were pregnant. And I obviously I've never heard that and I'm never going to experience that, but it's cool to hear it from somebody else that like, hey, wait a minute, there was something that I noticed that, hey, maybe I should be working on this and so on and so forth. And let's kind of dive into that dyslexia side because I remember we spoken about it, like I said, a couple of years back, we had the chance to kind of like speak for like an hour. And so just kind of connected the first time and just really see that, hey, we have the same passion of learning disabilities. And because obviously we're both dyslexic and we want to bring it out in the forefront. And you were kind of saying that, you know, your dyslexia was like how it happened and all that. But tell us the backstory. When did you find out you're dyslexic? How did that process happen? How did you go through school? And how are you dealing with it as a business person right now being dyslexic?
Yeah, so I found out at an early age. I was diagnosed when I was in second grade. I got held back. And because I don't know, because I am severely ADHD dyslexia. So with that being said, 10 years ago, even now, I hear that there's not a lot of help. There's a little bit of help in certain areas of being dyslexic. You know, they have the IUP program where if you need help in testing, you have that. If you need help in other things, so my severe dyslexic was really hard to teach. So throughout my life, every school that I went through, and I went to 13 different schools in high school,
Oh, wow.
those no school could actually sit me down and like, hey, this is how you learn. This is your toolbox. You know, no one really they couldn't figure out how to help me learn. So my mother, my dad, they really tried to find a school that really helped me learn. And unfortunately, it just didn't happen. I graduated high school with a special education degree, so something that's lower than a GED for those that don't know. And it's I think it's traumatizing. I think for anyone to go. I think I have PTSD through school. I'm like from like 100% with education, but it's getting better, and that's all we can. You know, people like us, people like around the world, that advocate around the world in Canada. I know in schools in Canada are doing such a great job, and even in Europe they're doing such a great job. So it's just continuing to build that voice box for those kids that are our next generation.
You were so spot on in that. I think the journey, and you probably went through a bit of a crazier journey with the fact that you went to 13 schools. And if I'm not mistaken, I think because both your parents are in the U.S. Army, and you guys had to move because of that as well. So it wasn't only your learning disability that made it that you moved schools. Is that correct?
Stayed in the same city, so
Oh, wow.
I lived in the same house.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I definitely understand your PTSD
Yeah,
because
it's a big.
yeah, okay, I get it now. Because honestly, having learning disabilities, it's kind of a normal structure to be like, it's rare that, hey, they find that you have a learning disability and the school that you're in is adequately formed to serve this kid, right? Usually they do change around. Like I changed schools maybe 3 or 4 times, and still that's a lot as well, but nothing compared to 13 times. So that's interesting. And you did mention as well, the main thing that I personally believe when it comes to learning disabilities or any type of learning, you just have to learn how to learn. And once the kid or the person or the adult learns how they consume information, how to retain information, and how they can reteach information, then you're on the right track. And for people like me and Yvette, like us, it's not reading. It's more through audio, it's more through listening, it's more to doing or whatever the case is. That's so much more predominant for us to learn essentially. So that is super cool that you do that. And as well, you did mention like, hey, you know what's happening with the Canadian side of things. And if I'm not mistaken, you're in Las Vegas, right? Nevada, United States, for people who don't know, beautiful. And I'm in Montreal right now in Canada. And you're very much aware of what's happening in the education system in Canada as well as in Europe because you have done some work. And correct me if I'm wrong, are you still doing with some work with the International Dyslexia Association? How do you like? What's that aspect like? What do you do for them? How do you support them? Let's talk about that a bit.
Yeah, so with I used to travel with them, but everything going on with unfortunately not travel. We do conferences. So the Dyslexia Foundation is a conference base and it's under research. So we do a lot. They do a lot with neuroscience and they really tap into the actual science base of what dyslexia is.
Let's go.
It is a brain problem. It's nothing. It's not this. Yeah, people make it seem like it's a large thing. It's a brain issue. It can get genetic, and you can get it throughout over times with damage to the brain. I've met football players that have never had dyslexia when they were born, and because of the beating over time in football, they develop and they get diagnosed later on with dyslexia because it's a brain issue. So I work with a lot of the neuroscience programs that they work with, and it's advocating, it's really getting involved with what the science base is and then taking that science-based knowledge and going to the public with it. Because without the public's help, dyslexia, if the public doesn't understand what dyslexia is, we're basically just a back burner and no one can really help us. But if the public understands and really gets involved, then we're able to continue to live our lives and people understand that, hey, it's an unseen disability, but we're still here and we still need help. Just because we don't look like we have a disability or we don't look like we have a learning problem doesn't mean we can't ask for help. And I think that's where people really get, where we get scared because it's like, oh, we don't look like we don't look like we're struggling, but we are. Is it okay if we ask? So if we get the public involved, then we feel more confident in ourselves to ask for help when we're at jobs, when we're everywhere, when we're anywhere else. So that's really what I do. I really kind of take that knowledge that when I travel with the foundation and bring it to, my modeling and my advocate to the public with my clothing line and everything. So.
Okay, so many things to unpack there. That was just delicious on top of delicious. And I'm going to do my best job to unpack some of them because I do want to talk about the neuroscience behind it because I am just such a fan of neuroscience. Being a peak performance coach, I thoroughly believe once you understand the brain and how it works and you utilize it to your advantage, you are going to become a peak performing individual. And when it comes to dyslexia, like you just eloquently mentioned, it really has to do with something that's neuroscientists, right? So it's like you're born with a certain issue or it gets developed because there is essentially neuroplasticity that happens. And you were talking about a football player. Unfortunately, football players, with the sport being what it is, with the contact that they get, can really shake and reshape your brain in a certain way. So I didn't even know that you just mentioned. It makes perfect sense. So that is really interesting. And Yvette, if you have any research about that, please send it my way. I would love to read more about I'm sure you have tons of it. That's why on that, it's like, I got you, fam. So that is amazing. And at the same time, let's talk about, because there's two things I want to mention as well. Let's talk about your acting and modeling side and what do you do with that, and then from there talk about your clothing brand, because honestly the clothing brand, I have no idea about it. I've seen a couple of your things and I do know some of the stuff that you print have like dyslexia and kind of definitions behind it. So let's just go into that, however you want to answer it. Go for it.
Probably less than 2 years ago with pageant world, with modeling, just you travel so much with pageantry, and I'm so blessed to have the 3 titles that I had. I have 2 national titles, and it's so.
Let's go.
It was such. I suggest any little girl to go through it. I think it's so saved me. I have so many friends still. It's a little sorority, so you get so much out of it. You get to see and travel and get experiences that I would have never. So I truly am blessed to be a part of it. It's just when you go through it for so long and then you're like, okay, I want a break. Years ago, settled down and kind of, really worked on with the foundation, really just trying to figure out what I wanted to do and to bring out to the world with dyslexia. So with that being said, the clothing line has been a very long process to do. I want to bring out to the public something so luxury and so beautiful that it's taken me such a really hard time to go through and make sure that every little thing is perfect. Our clothing is made in the United States. The cotton, we want to make sure that it's organic. We want to make sure the dye behind it is, you wash it and it's not going to get ruined. We want to make sure that the clothing is perfection. So it's taken me quite some time to make sure that it comes out perfect. And I'm so excited about it. It's really, again, I'm such a huge advocate for dyslexia. So I really want to make sure that I'm targeting more of the public. I want this to be a mom that doesn't have a kid with dyslexia and just wants to support. And she's able to just wear it out to the grocery store. I want someone that, you can hand it to your buddy and he wears it. And it's not a hidden thing or, this is weird kind of deal. I want it to be, hey, this is a cool shirt. Let's, go work out at the gym with it. I I don't want them to feel, I don't want people to feel like, oh, this is, education or this is like silly. I want someone that doesn't know anything about dyslexia, like, oh, that's a cool shirt, let me have it and purchase it. And, you're able to just wear it off the streets and be like, oh, I don't know how many times I have dyslexia on my face. And I don't know how many times I go to the grocery store and be like, oh, my kid's dyslexic. Or what? I've heard about that. And I have a conversation. It's just a conversation. And if you continue the conversation, it really it benefits all of us.
Yvette, that is amazing, and you definitely have a client in me, and we'll talk about how to go get this clothing and talk about it as well, the process. Well, first of all, actually, let's just clarify one thing. Tell me how to go get this. Are you right now in market and selling it? Because you were saying it does take a little while to start, and I want to talk about that starting period because I have a big entrepreneurial based clientele. That's essentially what I work with my coaching and my speaking. Let's talk about that, because usually when people start business, they kind of overestimate what it's going to happen or how long it's going to take. And then once they start doing the work, like, oh, wait a minute, this demands a lot more work. It demands a lot more, I's to get dotted and T's to get crossed before actually getting it to market and selling it. So talk about that process. Talk about, like, you were looking at potentially making it in the United States, not potentially, essentially making it in the United States, and how that differs with cost as well and quality that kind of plays with that. So just tell us, first of all, where can we get it? Is it online? And I love the fact as well that you have the Dyslexia brand on it. And is it only going to be a clothing line that highlights dyslexia, or you are going to do other things that's just a branch of it?
So with dyslexia, give me 1 second.
No worries. At the same time, we're getting so many people joining in. That is amazing. Let me see. We have Billy, we have Mel, we have Anna, we have Katrin, we have Gonzalo, we have Oliver Day as well. Dyslexic Superstars, what up? So thank you guys for joining in. Oh, we have Anthony and we have Yvette that's back. So go for it, Yvette.
Yeah. So with the Dyslexia Studio is going to be about dyslexia. Again, I'm targeting the dyslexic community, the dyslexia is, and what it really benefits. You're able to benefit other people. So the money is going back to the Dyslexia Studio, but go back to the Dyslexia Foundation. So my main focus is research, because without research, we can't get anywhere. It's a trickle down. Without the research, the schools can't get information about dyslexia. The teachers won't know how to help the kids with learning disabilities. So it's a trickle down effect. So all the nonprofit and everything is going to go to the Dyslexia Foundation. That's the research base behind it. Dyslexia Studio is going to be strictly about dyslexia, and we can't get it right now. Still in the process. We should be launching it in fall. So it will probably have 4 pieces to start off with. 3 will be clothing line, and then the next one will be accessory. So anyone can wear it. Kids, we're going to have a kids line, we're going to have an adult line, we're going to have a women's and male line. So I want everyone to enjoy this clothing line. So it will be in the fall.
That is amazing. Okay, so right now you guys are in production. Fall will be launched. Please keep me posted on it. I would love to share it. And obviously, like I said, I'm going to definitely buy some pieces for myself, being full on dyslexic. And I'm sure just by knowing your background, you're very much into fashion. And I thoroughly love fashion as well. It is one of my passions. So I'm sure you're going to make it a little twist that it's going to be very modern and all that stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. And let me just be clear. Is this brand 100% nonprofit, going back to research? Is that what you mentioned? Is that what I understood?
Majority of the income that comes from the studio is going back to research.
Okay.
It's going to the traveling that could help the neuroscience travel, because we do conferences. So it's going to go back into traveling and conferences to just continue to promote and learn about the research.
That's even more dope. That's just saying, obviously it's so easy to get behind, and we'll leverage both of our networks, and because obviously, we both have, I'm sure, a network of a lot of people dyslexics or anybody has learning disabilities. So we'll be able to push that, because like you said, it really goes back to funding. The more funding we have, the more research we have, the more we're going to be able to talk about it. Just like you said, it's kind of a conversation starter. And the more we understand how it's really working and what's happening in neurobasic science, we'll be able to utilize proper tricks to teach these people that have dyslexia dyslexia or learning disabilities to go to the next level, because I thoroughly believe, and I'm sure you're on the same length, there's so many people that have learning disabilities and unfortunately they don't know, they haven't been told, and it's kind of wasted talent and they've done things not to their full potential. But if at a young age they were caught and had the proper speech therapists around them, proper structure, it would have been somebody that was, so much more, let's say, bringing value to society or in some way, shape, or form. So definitely so many things that we're gonna be able to unpack within that. So if that's nonprofit, then tell me, what's your business like? 'Cause I do remember as well, you had a restaurant or you were collaborating in a restaurant back then. It's like, how do you get essentially income? Like, what's your main business that's like nonprofit that's bringing in money, bringing on the business side of things?
So Clothesline is a business. So
Okay.
a business, but the majority of the income that comes in, so
Okay.
it's going to go a majority of it to the.
I get it.
So it is going to. Uh, I love business. I love the business side. So it is going to. I have a little background in business. So starting the Dyslexia Foundation, or not the Dyslexia Foundation, starting it really was like earlier. It is about the clothing. The business side of it is really just documenting the shipping, the finding out the material, the fabric. I'm really huge on fabric, so I've gone through clothes to kind of really. I'll go to the store and I'll just feel the fabric and I'll just go through the fabric. I'm like, oh, I like this one. I'll pick it out and look at where it's made, see where the fabric is, see what the cotton is. So I'm really just particular, and that's what I want to bring to the Dyslexia Studio. Is I want to make sure that it's comfortable, that you feel comfortable, that I feel comfortable giving it to my audience and giving it to my followers. I think it's so important to feel comfortable in what you're wearing.
100%. If it feels good, you look good, you'll be good. It really does go with that. And and I'm sure, like you said, you being a model, I mean, you've tried on a fair share of clothes, I'm sure of it, right? Going in and out. So you do feel the textures, and me, like, I'm not wearing a suit now, but I'm like a very much a suit guy. And I could tell the quality by a suit just by putting it on, holding it and touching it. So that feel aspect as a human being when you put on clothes is very important. So if you're able, and I'm sure you are going to be, to bring that high quality, and on top of that, there's the philanthropy side backing it, and it's a business. I mean, I only see success within this, and I only wish you the best with all of that. Awesome, honestly, and I can't wait until it's launched, honestly, because I was hoping it was off now. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna buy some sweaters in Canada. It's cold. I'm like, yo, let's make this happen, right? So
I just last year, but with COVID, unfortunately, I took a step back and just really just went over. I did the website, so I just really perfected it. We were going to launch it last year, but I really wanted to take a step back and really evaluate it. I think it's important. I think don't launch anything that you want to give it your 100%. And if you love the product and love what you're doing, you're going to do. Everyone's going to do so well. So you just got to find what you love. And this is something that I absolutely love, especially with the dyslexia community. As you know, I've been an advocate for it since 2014. So it's been a while, and I've just seen the process, and I've seen the growth of the dyslexia community and the education, the schools, universities around the world are joining in and really wanting to make a difference. Dyslexia has been around since 1881. So since 1881, it's been around. So it's a very long process, and that's something that with my clothing line, 1881 is what's going to be logoed onto my brand, because that is when dyslexia was introduced to the public. It has been around for that long, and we're having struggles to this day. That is not okay to me. To me, I'm like, this is not. We should be a little bit more advanced,
100.
especially with such a large population of people with dyslexia.
So I love what you just mentioned there. Let me just preface it when she's saying it's been around since 1881. The first diagnosis or mention of this disability, let's call it, or this difficulty of learning, was in 1881. And if I'm not mistaken, it was an English doctor. I forgot what his name was that kind of brought it about. But obviously, dyslexia and these type of things have always been around with people or whatever the case is as human beings. It's just that we haven't been talking about it. We didn't know what it was. Unfortunately, back in the day, we would have assumed, oh, if you're not reading, it's because you're lazy, you're not working hard enough, maybe you're not smart. All these negative biases that were associated with it back in the day. And now we're understanding that, oh, wait a minute, it has nothing to do with your effort, it has nothing to do with your intelligence, it has nothing to do with any of that. It's that there actually is a neural link that's making you a lot more difficult when it comes to the art of reading and writing and so on and so forth that is linked up with dyslexia. So as we're going into that, like I have like two more main questions. The first one is, like we just said, you have just gave birth, and we're talking about dyslexia, and we did mention that it is something that can be given, to the next generation. How would you feel if you find out down the line that your son, because obviously there's more dyslexic guys than girls, and just statistically, how would you feel when they're like, hey, your son has dyslexia? Would you be like, oh no, we have to go through this? Are you comfortable with it? You're like, bet I got this. I know what to do. And are like, oh yeah, this is going to be a great advantage. How would you feel as a mother knowing that, hey, my kid might have dyslexia, and let's just project it in the forward that he does have it? How would you feel with that?
Yeah, it's definitely been a thought process. And when I found out we were having Lincoln, it was one of those. He may be severe, he may not be severe, he may just have his father does not have dyslexia, so that was kind of for me. I know others say different, but for me personally, I was lucky where I didn't want my spouse to have learning differences because I was severe, so I didn't want the two. If Lincoln has it, we're going to go it head on. We have to go to the top science program in the university. Yeah, I think if he does get diagnosed with it, we're gonna no problem. I'm gonna make sure
Yeah.
take care of that. We're getting the help that he needs, and we're gonna do it like my parents did. You keep going, you keep finding out tools and figuring out. Because I'm severely ADHD, my memory is very limited, and so I didn't figure out how to help my memory until I was in 11th grade because my parents just kept going and kept trying and kept trying, and that's what we're going to do to Lincoln. We're going to continue to try and figure out what works and what doesn't work, and figure out the tools that you need at a young age. If you start it young, by the time you get older, it's not so difficult. But if that's the problem with our school system, is if they don't start it young, and then when they move forward and it gets to middle school and high school, they're already far behind, and it's hard to catch them up. So if if Lincoln does get diagnosed with dyslexia or ADHD, we're going to catch it extremely at a very early and get it taken and get the help that he needs.
Yeah. So I love all of that because it's so spot on. Like you mentioned your family, you mentioned your parents when you got diagnosed and found out that you had learning disabilities or learning differences as well. The reality of the matter is, I am sure if Lincoln does have a certain like a learning difference or whatever the case is, he's going to be super blessed to have you as a mother and to have that proper structure. And to be quite honest, my personal opinion, like looking back at it now, like a guy that's 31 years old, whose whole life having learned differences, I see it as a huge value now. And the reason why I succeed as a businessman is because I had so many things I had to go through with the dyslexic. I failed over and over again. And because I understood what is failure, just continuing to go forward, that's where real success comes about. That's why I really succeed in as an entrepreneur in so many different ways. So I feel like it's going to be somewhat an advantage. And we have spoken about this years ago. You're like, hey, I don't like saying that dyslexia is an advantage in itself. We're not saying like it's your superpower or whatever, but there's definitely a lot of life lessons, and it does create a more relentless individual. I've just seen it like being the president of my alumni association for a school that specializes for students with learning disabilities. I see it every single day from people that have ADHD, dysgraphia, like dyslexia, and so on and so forth. It creates relentless individuals that go on forward. Now, these people have to have the proper structure, like we said. So I'm sure that Lincoln with you guys is just going to be well versed in that universe. So I'm not even worried with that if it does happen, and wish all the best with that. So for sure, it's not gonna affect in a negative way my personal opinion on it. So
No, I
yeah.
think having dyslexia is negative. I think that the process when they go into the school system and how people take is a different approach than I would probably like to do. I'd probably like to see. I think that if you approach it as this is this is how I learn. Everyone learns different. Every brain is different. Even if you have dyslexia or not dyslexia, every brain is different. We all look different. No one looks the same. Even twins don't look. There's always something different. So
Hmm.
for me, if people see it that way, it's like, oh, they just learn different, or this is how they learn, and this is how they are contributing to society is in a different way, then we'll be all, I think it would be a lot better in self-confidence. But because people don't see it that way, the dyslexia side or people learning differences, they kind of shield and they kind of like, they don't feel confident enough because their world is like, oh, you're different. Oh, you can't do this or you can't do that because of this problem. And it takes them longer. And I think it's a very long road in the long run.
Yeah. And you did mention something that's extremely important is the education system. And I want to know your opinion. What do you think of the current education system we have? And obviously you're just from the States, I'm from Canada, but North America, we're kind of similar on where we at with that. And what do you think with the education system that we have now? Do you think it's conducive to help people learn differently? Do you think it's the proper way? Do you think there's certain things that have to change with the education system that we have currently?
I think our education, no matter if you in the United States, I think it needs to change. I do think that we need more education. I think principals need to know exactly how dyslexia. I think you need to know, even if you are not a teacher, I think you should still know. I think CPR, every CPR, every teacher, understands people with wheelchairs, autistic, why we're at the same percentage as kids, not a little bit more, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't understand why our school systems, our states, and our government doesn't treat it as such. Because it's such a high percentage, you do not take care of these kids at public school systems at a young age. They're a high percent is going to fail because they don't understand. Because it's not just about learning; it's about what happens when that kid doesn't understand the reading. Then they go home and they're going in the hallway. Then they're going to their bus, and they're still like, oh, I didn't understand. And that's self. They're replaying that moment in their head over and over again, and that does something to their self-esteem. So I got someone the other day was talking about depression and like, oh no, of course this kid's depressed. Of course this kid it doesn't have a lot of self-esteem, has self-esteem issues because they're having issues in school. And if you don't handle that stuff in school, then you're doomed to have issues. So I just think when you get to a point and you have to really help them, and I think our school system needs to help them at a very young age, like second and third grade, is
Yeah.
what I think they should be doing. And that's all. That's state and that's government. I think it should be a government to all states and public school systems need to be diagnosed with kids with ADHD.
100%. I couldn't agree more, to be quite honest. And I'm somebody that's extremely optimist, just with like the mindset that I've cultivated positivity. I thoroughly believe that we are doing a shift towards the education system. And what I mean by an education system is because right now, with the accessibility to all this free information, and a lot of it is good, and there's some that's not good as well. Let's just say the real things. But the fact that there are so many things that are getting created online, such as Coursera, such as like online courses, such as podcasts, such as YouTube channels, and so on and so forth, that brings so much value. I feel like the whole education scheme is changing. And as the population goes towards one direction, the educational schools, like the old school structure, is like no choice to change their structure to answer better to the population. Because if you look at it right now, let's talk about the United States, the big companies towards Apple, Google, Amazon, and so on and so forth are not even looking at to have a degree when it comes to hiring, because they're seeing, especially with like the United States, it's so difficult to have the finances to go to a certain level in schooling that they're like, why are we going to penalize somebody that doesn't have the financial resources to go to school, but yet again is 100% capable to do whatever he needs to do to get a job, and he has done something else. And that whole structure, I feel like, is going to change, God willing, very soon. And it's going to help out 100% people with learning disabilities, because like you said, there's a lot of things with emotion involved and so on and so forth that you have to really validate within kids. And Yvette, I wanted to be respectful for your time here. I said like a 20, 30 minutes, but as you see, we can legit like rant like until tomorrow morning, because this is something that just passions us. But I just want to kind of leave you off with this last question, or just like kind of direct the audience in the proper way. Where can we go to kind of, first of all, your brand, please mention what the website is. You said that you were kind of working on it. I don't know if it's up. I want to know like where we could go to get that, and where we could go to follow you, or like the Dyslexia Foundation and so on and so forth, where we could direct our crowd essentially towards what you were talking about.
Yeah, so the Dyslexia Foundation is dyslexiafoundation.org, and anyone can contribute, no matter if it's low or high. It's all about giving back, and it's all about giving back to the neuroscience, having them able to do conferences around the world. We've gone to Russia, Africa, or Spain. We've gone, and then here in the United States, we've gone to the top universities here to hold our conferences. These conferences are to educators and to educator teachers. You know, anyone can come in, and it's global. So if we're having a conference at Harvard, you in Canada can get on and listen to the neuroscience and really talk and really engage and question to what they have to say. So you can go to dyslexiafoundation.org is their program. That is a nonprofit. My dyslexia studio is on my Instagram, which is Yvette Blaess.
Okay.
Find it on there. It's on the headlines of my profile. And right now we just have an Instagram. The website is being built. We are hoping to launch in the fall of this year. And like I said, is going to be males, females, and children's, and probably one accessory to start and to launch and just have a great time to help out and bring awareness to that is my main goal.
So Yvette, that was amazing, like on everything. And let me just say, like, thank you for everything that you're doing. Honestly, as a dyslexic, I love connecting with people like you, and people that like do work with obviously the foundations. And as every single person does their little work, and us is this thing and other people is something else, and it's beautiful. As a society, we're going to go forward, right? So awesome job with that. As soon as it's launched, whatever, please let me know. I would love to promote it and push it, and I would love to buy some of your product as well and support it in any way, shape, or form. So, Yvette, like I said, I mean, I feel like we could talk until tomorrow morning, but just to be respectful for each other's time, once again, such a blessing to have you as my first guest on Friday Flows. Definitely down the line, we'll probably rehash this, we'll redo this, because this was fun.
T-shirts, and talk about more about your school, what you're doing in Canada. I absolutely love catching in and seeing how you just did a huge nonprofit or a huge fundraising last year or 2 years ago, I believe. You did a huge fundraising. So thank you for all your work that you're doing in Canada. It's amazing work.
Thank you, Yvette. Thank you, Yvette. And we'll definitely have a chance to hopefully cross paths when this COVID situation ends up. We'll definitely do something face-to-face as well. So that being said, Yvette, thank you once again. Thank you for blessing us with your time and just having this great conversation. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.